Daniel Wise was a 60-year-old man who lived with two of his children in a log cabin in Sharpsburg, Maryland. Daniel wasn't by any means a wealthy man at all. In fact, him and his son John would work as day labourers and potters by trade, and on the side, Daniel worked as a root healer, a local natural medicine healer. Born in Brunswick, Maryland in 1802 to Jacob Wise, Daniel grew up with modest means. At the age of 22, Daniel married a woman by the name of Mary Steffi. They went on to build a home and have 3 children, Matilda, Christina, and John. By 1860, Mary, Daniel's wife, would die of unknown causes, his first daughter Christina would marry, and move out of the family home, leaving Daniel and 2 of his now grown-up children to live together in their family home. On September 14, 1862, in the South Mountains of Maryland, just outside of Sharpsburg, fighting broke out between the Army of the Potomac and the Army of Virginia in a now historical battle known as the Battle of Fox's Gap. The Battle of Fox's Gap was a horrendous battle, which resulted in unimaginable losses for the Confederate Army. On September 15th, a large group of soldiers from the 23rd Ohio Infantry and other regiments were assigned to bury their fallen soldiers. As the burial detail pushed on that day, not particularly fond of the task they were assigned, many of the soldiers in this detail took to drinking to get through the arduous task of hauling the now rancid, smelling, decomposing bodies of their fallen comrades around in search of places to bury them. The ground in this particular area was extremely hard and difficult to dig down into. Finally, after many hours of tireless digging and hauling, the exhausted and intoxicated soldiers began to search the surrounding areas for alternate ways to dispose of the bodies. Later that day, a small group of soldiers spotted a whitewashed log cabin that stood at the intersection of Old Sharpsburg Road and 2 unnamed mountain roads which followed along the mountaintop in a north to south direction. Upon searching the property, the exhausted soldiers spotted a seemingly dry well. Believing the property to be vacant and being as intoxicated and exhausted as they were, they all quickly agreed that the best course of action would be for them to dispose of the rest of the bodies, under their detail for that day, down this well, and that is what they did. As the soldiers carried on with their newly agreed upon operation, the owner of the property, Daniel Wise, would come home and discover what these soldiers were doing on his property and to his well. Daniel, furious at this revelation, would tell these men to stop what they were doing immediately, kicking them all off his property. The soldiers, scared of being turned into their superior officers, fled the log cabin, leaving behind the remaining corpses on Daniel's property. On September 16th, after having spent the rest of the previous day with all of the decomposing bodies the soldiers left behind on his property, decided to pay the soldiers' superior officer, the 9th Corps Commander, Major General Ambrose E. Burnside, a visit to find some way of getting these bodies removed. After talking with the commander, he agreed to allow the operation to continue, realizing that now that there were already several dead bodies down in the well, his well was ruined. So, over the next couple of days, Daniel and his family would be displaced, as the soldiers came back and continued to toss more of these bodies down into the Wise family home well. When they were done, the well would be filled with earth and capped off. Afterward, Daniel thought he and his family would be allowed to return home, but that isn't what happened. The army commandeered the Wise family home for some time after, setting up a makeshift infirmary inside the log cabin, and continued to bury more of their deceased on various parts of Daniel's property. All in all, 128 unnamed Confederate soldiers were buried on the Wise family farm property, 47 on the east side of the property, 23 on the west side, and 58 inside of the well. To this day, the site of Daniel Wise's farmhouse is known as one of the most haunted sites and is a local legend